Yeah, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our presentation of Secardeo certEntra version 2. My name is Gunnar Jakobsson. I'm the CEO and founder of Secardeo. And we will have 30 minutes for this presentation. And in the following, I will show you what is the content of this presentation. So I will start with an introduction into our TOPKI software suite, an overall introduction in all the components that we have and where is certEntra located here. Then I will explain what are the requirements for certificate automation and how does the automation of user certificates work with certEntra. Then I will go deeper into the new features that we have developed in the new version 2 of certEntra. And after that, we can jump into a short live demo so you can get an idea how it looks in a live scenario. Then I will show you which options you have for the deployment of certEntra. And at the end, I will give you a summary of all these discussions. Some words about Secardeo. The company was founded 25 years ago, and we are located in Ismaning. This is between the center of Munich. You see here on the picture, and it sits between the center and the Munich airport in the middle of that. And our focus is PKI digital certificates, and we provide solutions for certificate lifecycle automation. Yeah, what we offer is a software suite called TOPKI, stands for Trusted Open PKI. This is a modular platform. This means you don't have to license the complete software suite. You can pick out those components that you need for your specific use case and scenario. I will give you an overview what is contained here. So we have certEP, which simulates a Microsoft CA, ADCS, and that serves for auto-enrollment of certificates for Active Directory users and devices with a non-Microsoft CA. So we have customers that use it for auto-enrollment with the public CA, for SMIME certificates, for example, or others are using it in combination with an open source CA. Then we have certPush. certPush will provide the enrolled certificates to the mobile devices. So we have two options, a mail-based provisioning and an MDM-based provisioning, so that the user has his keys and certificates on all his devices. Yeah, then we have certEntra for the auto-enrollment of user certificates in an Azure environment. And this is the topic of today. I will go deeper into that afterwards. Another component that we have is certAcme that serves for the auto-enrollment of SSL TLS certificates for web servers. Then we have certLive as a central component for the overall certificate management, for self-services, for certificate discovery, and other options. Then we have certRevoke, which serves for the auto-revocation of certificates in Active Directory. So if you have an AD object where attributes have changed, a user has changed his name or his email address, then the certificate will be automatically revoked, and the user will get a new certificate using the auto-enrollment. Then, and this is also interesting for our today's presentation, is the third box. The third box is required for end-to-end encryption with external partners. So the third box will publish certificates to the outside world, and it will retrieve S-MAN certificates from external partners provided to your Outlook, so you can encrypt out of the box with anybody. Cert mode is an extension to this. The cert box is LDAP based. Cert mode is a component that supports mail apps that don't use LDAP for certificate retrieval. For example, the iOS mail app, because the iOS mail app is using the ActiveSync protocol to perform this, and cert mode is a proxy that that sits between the mobile device and the Exchange server and makes a connection to the cert box in order to provide all encryption certificates to the mobile email app. Yeah, so now let's jump into the Azure infrastructure. How does it look like? So in the Azure environment, we have typically Microsoft Entra ID that's used for the management of users. Then we have Intune that serves for the management of devices. And typically, users are using Exchange Online and 365 for email communication. So this is a typical constellation, and the challenges here are confidentiality and authentication. So what we need is mechanisms for secure email and mechanisms for certificate-based authentication. So we need certificates on the devices, and how do we achieve that? For this, we have developed certEntra. certEntra sits in Azure, makes interactions with Entra ID, makes interactions with Microsoft Intune, and has an interface to a CA provider. certEntra provides enrollment of certificates, renewal, publishing, revocation, and also notifications. And it will issue certificates for users in Entra ID and also for shared mailboxes. The certificates and private keys will be pushed to the devices that are managed by Intune. So how does it look like in detail? So I will explain you what happens here. So certEntra is in the middle. So certEntra interacts with Entra ID. So in Entra ID, we have an enrollment group. So certEntra will get the users from that enrollment group. It will check if that user has already a valid certificate. If not, it will create a key pair, and it will submit a certificate request to the configured CA. The CA issues a certificate, returns the certificate to certEntra, and certEntra will archive the private key and the certificate. Key archival is done with the help of a key recovery agent certificate. So the KRA certificate is stored in the Azure Key Vault together with the private key. So in order to recover the certificate, an interaction with Key Vault is done. So the private key Vault will decrypt the archived container, recover the keys recovered, and it can be re-encrypted in a PFX using a password. And this PFX is pushed to Intune. Then Intune will check the configured devices of that user and push the PFX to all these devices. From that point of time, the user has his private key and his certificate on all his devices. Additionally, depending on the configuration, certEntra can publish the certificate into the Exchange Online GAL. If this is done, the colleagues in the company can encrypt using that certificate from that user. In order to encrypt with external partners, certEntra can also automatically publish the certificate to the cert box, and the cert box will provide it to the outside world. So we have different roles in certEntra. We have an administrator that is capable of managing certEntra, and we have an optional user self-service, so the user can log in using his Entra ID credentials, and then he has access to his certificates and private keys. So how is certificate revocation performed? Certificates are revoked automatically if the Entra ID account has been deleted, or if the name or address attributes of the users have changed, or if the user has been removed from the enrollment group. So in these cases, certificate is automatically revoked. Nothing has to be done manually. But you also have the option to revoke a certificate manually. This can be done by the certEntra administrator, or it can be done by the user himself using the self-service. When revoking manually, you can enter a reason code and a description why the certificate has been revoked. So now I come to the innovations that we provide in certEntra version 2. So the most important innovation is that the certEntra is now deployed as a native Azure web app. Before, version 1 was a virtual machine. The advantage of using a web app, it's fully integrated into Azure, so it's easier to deploy and is highly scalable. Then we have developed an internal certificate connector. So you don't have to use the Microsoft certificate connectors. You can do it, but you don't have to use it. So it's easier to install and configure everything, and you have an enhanced security against Microsoft. Another important new innovation is that we also support key archival using post-quantum cryptography. So I think you are aware of the problem that quantum computers will be able to decrypt RSA in a couple of years, and to prevent from this, public key cryptography algorithms have been developed. And what we do is we use a hybrid encryption with MLCAM together with RSA. So it's double encrypted with the conventional RSA plus PQC algorithm MLCAM. So with this option, you can achieve a very long-term security of the archived keys. Then we have improved auditing, so it's completely integrated into the Azure cloud, so you can use Azure Log Workspaces, and also an integration with Application Insights is supported. Yeah, and then we have further innovations. For example, we have subject modification rules, so you can automatically remove characters, swap attributes, or compose new strings with these rules. Then we support nested enrollment groups or registration groups. We support elliptic curve cryptography. And in addition to the standard chat mailboxes, we also support M365 groups. Another interesting feature is that we now provide a template type push only, and this serves for the compatibility with other TOPKI components. Yeah, what we added is a couple of CA backends. On the right hand, you see the public CAs that we support. And on the left hand, you see the private CAs, so a couple of open source CAs and also the Microsoft CA. Yeah, now I would switch into a short live demo. Just let me jump here. What you can see here is the web app of certEntra. You see we have a navigation here. So we have general tab where you can configure the database, for example, or email attributes, Azure attributes, key recovery agent. And then on the services tab, you can start or stop the certEntra service. You can configure logging, notifications, start of the auto enrollment, interval of the auto enrollment. And what I will do now is, because I have a clean database, there are no certificates inside. So, and what I will do now is I will start the enrollment manually by this Enroll Now button. And now the enrollment happens. I will look into the result later on. So in the backend CA tab, you can configure the backend CAs. In this case, we have configured a CA from Susan with with all the credentials, URLs, account name, and so on. And we have configured one certificate template, which is called as mine, where you can configure the CA, the product of the CA. You can configure subject name parameters, cryptographic attributes, algorithm, hash algorithm, whatever, key usage, certificate handling. So this means the validity time, key archival, and so on. Yeah, and now in the certificates tab, you can find certificates. You can either enter a concrete email address that you are looking for, or I just press on Find Certificates. And as you can see, we have two new certificates. One for Susie, I will look into that. So this has been issued just a couple of seconds before. The issuer is the Switzerland CA. It's listed here, and in the subject you see the parameters of the certificates: given name, surname, email sound, and so on. So, so the certificate has been enrolled now, and it has been pushed to Intune. So now the question is, how will it come to my computer? So in order to show this, we will just synchronize this computer with Intune. Normally, this is an automated process, but I will show it here in a manual step so we can proceed with the demo. So I will sync now with Intune. And in another dialog, I can show you the certificate manager on this machine. As you can see, we have no certificate for Susie. And now the sync has completed, and now I will refresh this. Okay, so something has gone. I have to sync again, perhaps. So it tells me that the sync was successful. So now I have the certificate of Susie Sorglos, and as you can see, it's the same as before. And show the details. It's the same certificate that we just enrolled with certEntra. So, and from this point of time, the user, Susie, can use this certificate in Outlook, for example, for encryption and signature of a new email. I will send it to myself. So the signature button is enabled by default, and I will also enable the encryption button, and then I will send out the email. So, and it just goes out in an encrypted way to Gunnar, and I will receive that encrypted mail and I can decrypt it with my private key. So, yeah, that was all I wanted to show you in this short demo, and I will go back to my presentation now. Yeah. Now the last question is, how can we deploy this web app? So the typical scenario when you deploy the web app in your Azure environment, this is governed by a Microsoft ARM template, or you can also use a Terraform module. So if you prefer this in your company, this is also possible. So deployment of the web app will be done, the key vault, app registration, and all the things that are needed so that it can run in Azure. On the other hand, you can also perform a manual deployment. So if you prefer to have the web app running on your own virtual machine, either in Azure or on premises, you can do this manually using a setup.exe. And in this case, you can also store the KRA keys locally in your certificate store. Yeah, and then at the end, you have to decide which certificate database you want to use. So the recommended database is Azure SQL or Managed MySQL in the Azure cloud. But alternatively, you can also use an on-premises database like MS SQL or MySQL. Okay, so I'm now just at the end of this presentation. I will summarize all up. So certEntra offers automatic enrollment of S/MIME authentication certificates for Entra ID users from public or private CAs. So this is a basic feature of certEntra. So with version 2, we have a couple of new features. It is deployed as an Azure web app. We are using an internal certificate connector. We can optionally perform key archival with post-quantum cryptography. We have an integrated cloud auditing. We provide additional CA backends, and we have a couple of new enrollment options that help to satisfy your requirements. So thank you very much for your attention, and I want to wish you a nice afternoon and see you. Goodbye.